Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with dedicated triathlete of 15 years, Tony Hampton, who is also a member of the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program. And he has had a pretty remarkable transformation that I would love him to share with you. He is an American triathlete from Fort Wayne, Indiana. How's my American accent? It's terrible.
Yeah, that's not anything like Fort Wayne people talk.
Okay, cool. But he came into the TNA program, I guess, looking for answers, and specifically for him around triathlon and diabetes. It's something he was looking for answers for many years and couldn't really find what he was looking for. But what he's gained from working on his nutrition goes far beyond what he initially expected. And through small, sustainable changes in habits, Tony has lost a significant amount of weight, reduced his visceral fat levels, and also has better HbA1c control. All of that has been while he has been injured, not doing a lot of consistent training or racing in the sport that he does love, and he's just itching to get back. So in this episode, we're going to dive into a bit of his journey around the sport of triathlon and some of the lessons he's learnt about fueling for endurance sport, specifically with diabetes, and some of the things that have really helped him train hard and race smarter and perform to the best of his ability. So if you are wondering about maybe how nutrition could be the missing piece of your endurance puzzle, then Tony's story, I think, is going to give you some great insight and maybe inspire you to do a little different and eat a little different as well. All right, welcome to the podcast, Tony.
Thanks. Love being here. Thanks.
So to kick us off, can you share a little bit about your journey into the sport of triathlon, how you got started and what made you fall in love and head over heels for this crazy sport that we do love?
So I've been an athlete my whole life. It's always been, usually around sports. And then when I got out, team sports, but when I got out of the military and had a bunch of young kids running around my house, the sports kind of went away, but the competition level was still there. So I'm like, what am I going to do? My neighbor happened to have just done an Ironman, and I was talking about it to him, and it was always one of my goals was to complete an Ironman, which I still haven't done, but a full
There's always
distance
time.
one.
There's still time.
But I do have one on the schedule, so I'm going to get there. But through that process of starting to run and then get into the triathlon, I had to start running because I didn't have a bike and I had no place to swim. And then picked up the bike, picked up a place to swim, started small in my journey, sprints and Olympics, couple of half marathons, and everything was great. But then the problem started when the training started lasting longer than 2 hours. And the races lasted longer than 2 hours. I got to a point where it was like I had no energy left. I didn't know what to do. Thinking that diabetes was the problem, everybody's like, just take a gel. Well, a gel is carbs and carbs is bad. And therefore, I didn't do it. So that made it really, really tough. And I stumbled around for years trying to find how to get past that 2 to 3 hour mark, and had a few injuries, neck surgery, back surgery, shoulder surgery, and arm surgery. And during all that, the Triathlon Nutrition Academy came across my feed, and I was intrigued, and you and I had a couple of discussions around whether you would be able to help for my diabetes. And I was thinking no, but you told me you could. I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try, but I'm not really sure it's going to work the way I want it to, but well, I'll give it a try, whatever. And did the program and absolutely loved it. I've learned tons about carbs and diabetes. I'm not afraid of carbs now. I was a little carb phobic when I joined. Some might say a lot.
I would say a lot, yes.
So, and I mean, I tried all the different, I tried keto and it worked for a little bit. I lost a lot of weight. Then I gained it all back and it was unsustainable. But
yeah,
after joining the program, I think it was starting phase 3, you put down a challenge that I had to accept, and it was no junk food, no alcohol. The benefit was that it was February and it was the shortest month of the year, but it was also a leap year, so there was an extra day. But I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. 29 days, it can't be the end of the world. And that started me on a weight loss journey. You also gave me a target for race weight, which was about 25 pounds lighter than what I am or what I was at the time. But I had lost a couple of pounds right before that started. So I count that as 30 pounds that I lost, not during that month, but as part of that challenge. And that challenge is still ongoing.
Yes, that's amazing. So, Tony, I love that you shared that you're like, I'm going to do this program, but I think it's going to be not as good as you expected. And this chick says she can help me, but I don't think she can.
I was skeptical. Nobody else has been able to help me, and everybody's put their 2 cents in. So it's been a long journey, obviously. So almost 15 years. I was probably at the 13-year-ish mark when I started the TNA program. Yeah, a lot of failures before that. I say there's a lot of trial and error, and more error than there was anything else.
I'm glad you got a lot out of the program and I could actually help you. I'm not one to overpromise and not be able to deliver. I'd much rather go the other direction. When were you diagnosed with type 2 diabetes? How long ago was that?
So I was diagnosed in 1999. It's funny. My daughter was having a birthday party and one of her friends was a diabetic, and that girl's mom gave us a sheet of paper that said, these are the things you have to look for, blah, blah, blah. She can't do this, she can't do that. Well, on that sheet, there was a bunch of symptoms of diabetics. And I was reading it down through the list and I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's. So I happened to have had to take one of my other daughters to the doctor a couple days after that. And I said, I might be a diabetic. And the doctor's like, oh, there's no way, whatever. And he took my blood sugar and he's like, when did you eat? I was like, I don't know, 2-3 hours ago. He's like, yeah, your blood sugar is fine. It's right in the normal range. It's like, okay, fine. And then I had some blood work done for some insurance that I was going through for a family and all that stuff. And they sent me a letter back saying, take this to the doctor. And that's all it said, and a bunch of, medical stuff at the bottom. And I didn't know. And it was right at the time of the internet not being the internet. So, I never thought about,
God knows what
there was
back
no
in those
Google.
days.
There was no Google then, right? So I didn't know what, so I took it to the doctor and he's like, yeah, you remember a few months ago when you told me you're a diabetic? Yeah, you were right. You're a diabetic. So that was 1999. So.
And how did that change your approach to nutrition and even training and exercise back then?
So I had to go through a nutrition class and they gave me a bunch of targets. All my meals had to be 60 carbs or under. And, they gave me it was a lot more than what I ended up actually eating for a good portion after that. But, the typical serving size, your fist of whatever, your piece of meat, all that stuff. And just monitor your blood. And I wasn't even on medicine. And a little bit after that, they put me on medicine and then they took me off for a long time. I was off of medicine for probably a good 10 years.
Yeah, nice.
And then 2020, I started, my blood sugars and A1C started to go a little high and they put me on medicine at that point. And that's when it really started to become real stuff that I needed to change and to look for change. And that's when the program really, for me, was like, okay, I got to find a way to stay healthy.
Yeah. And so before you joined the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program, what did you know about nutrition and training for diabetes? Like what was your baseline that you were coming in from?
There was none. I did a 70.3 in 2021 and the whole race, I took in 60 carbs for the entire race.
Wow.
And I probably
were you fat
only
adapted
drank
at that point though?
Not really. I mean, I was dabbling in keto at the time, around then, but I was training harder than, a zone 2 workout, which that's all keto is good for is zone 2 workouts. And I probably only had a liter of water through the whole 6 hours and 15 minutes that I was out there.
Right.
and very little salt. And at that point, shortly thereafter, I learned I was a heavy sweater. In fact, I lose a liter on the bike, a liter and a half on the run of water, and my sweat content is 1,760 milligrams of sodium. So I wasn't even anywhere near those for 1 hour, let alone 6 hours.
Yeah, that's craziness. So I remember really vividly the way that you ate before was very low carb. And I think that's a lot of the messaging that you get as a diabetic is carbs are bad, carbs are evil, just stay away from them altogether. And when you layer in triathlon training to that piece, like that's just going to set yourself up for failure. But then you become scared of eating carbohydrate because you don't want to increase your blood sugar levels. And so it's a really big like catch-22 vicious circle that you get into, that you become afraid of them, but you need more, but then you don't want to put them into your life. So it's really, really difficult. And it's one of the reasons that I guess I put you on the challenge, because you're stubborn AF. And sometimes it does take me a little while to figure somebody out. But once I figured you out, I'm like, right, I know how to I've got Tony figured out. Yeah, push his buttons and get him to actually make some change. And I'm so glad that we did that, because, I set him a challenge and he had, I guess, the support and camaraderie of the group and the cohort that he was going through with each week in Power Hour and stuff as well, which was so much fun because everyone was your accountability buddy inside that group as well. It wasn't just me checking in. Everyone was like cheering you on as well. But that was it was like February. We started in February and I set your kind of race weight for an event that you were planning on doing in November, I think it was. So it was, small, steady, gradual change in body fat loss. Do you remember your DEXA scan numbers from like before and post the challenge, roughly?
So I remember my weight was around 220 and my body fat was probably around 30%. And it was funny. It was phase 3 of the challenge, and there was only a few guys in the in my cohort to begin with. And I think I was the only guy that stayed around for phase 3. So it was me and all these women. And you gave me the challenge, and it was a employee appreciation day in the United States. And my boss had given me a candy bar, and I took
on day one.
Weight. Well, it wasn't day one, but it was pretty early in the challenge. But I had a yellow Post-it note on my desk that had 194, which was my race weight. And I had a lion, stuffed animal that came from a different event that one of the employees threw on my desk, and I just left it there. I think they thought I would probably throw it away or give it away or whatever. But I left it there. So I put the candy bar on the lion's lap, and I had the Post-it note, and I posted a picture in the Facebook group, and everybody just jumped on board. They're along the ride with the ride for me. It's like supporting me, encouraging me, making sure that I was doing what I was saying. And a couple of the people were talking about sweet potatoes. I'm not a big fan of sweet potatoes. And they're like, you got to eat sweet potatoes. Do it like this, do it like this. And so I tried it a couple of times, but they're like, well, okay, I'm still not a sweet potato fan. But here I am. So I think the final numbers, I don't know exactly what my body fat was, but I did get down to the 194. A couple months early. I ended up not doing the race because I was still recovering from my bicep tendon tear and fighting scar tissue. I didn't do the race. Swimming was very difficult. I tried to do a swim and I couldn't even take my hand out of the water. So that makes it difficult when you do it for 2.4 miles.
Yes. You swim in circles doing one arm only.
So I could swim straight. I could still swim straight. And I was at the back of the field, and I was so mad at all the other people that were faster swimmers than what I was swimming at the time, because that's all the faster I could go. And they kept swimming over the top of me. I'm like, you guys would be fast if you would just swim straight. I'm swimming straight and I can't swim fast, and you guys are just swimming over the top of me. So it was not fun. I don't know what my actual body fat percentage actually dropped down to, but I think right now I'm probably around 20-ish%.
Yeah, it
So
was
I
huge.
dropped maybe
And
10%.
one of the values of getting a DEXA scan for you was that your visceral fat specifically reduced significantly. So that's the fat that sits around your organs, and we don't want that. We want that number to
Right.
be as low as
Yeah.
possible. And for
A lot
Tony,
of
that
that
number
was
was
a
relatively
lot of that
high.
was in my torso, and it's not there. And there's some still there. There's work to still be done. Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as it was.
Yeah, thank goodness. And the other thing that's changed for you, I guess, is your HbA1c control. Can you talk to some of those numbers? What's happened over the
So
last 12 months?
my doctor always is amazed when I go in to the doctor because he's like, you're this diabetic that's been a diabetic for a long time and you're in pretty good control. My numbers were probably in the mid sixes for the most part, but after I joined the program, it actually dropped down to zero point 0.4. It's
Yes.
since risen a little bit, but I'm still at like 5.6 or 5.7. So, which is borderline whether you're diabetic or not, but I'm still
Mm,
taking the medicine, so I can't say that I'm not, because if I didn't take the medicine, it might be higher.
yeah.
But
And
that's
are you looking at maybe going off medication in the future, do you think?
I want to, but I'm not sure if I'm there yet. I still got a little bit of work to do. In fact, I have a meeting with my doctor next week to discuss that very thing.
Okay. That's
Because
exciting.
I'm noticed that 194, which is what the race weight was, is the lowest I could go. Even if I starved myself, it seems like that's where my medicine is stopping me from losing any more weight. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we're going to discuss next week.
I think for you, like that was a long journey, right? That's for your entire duration of the TNA program. We're working on that sort of stuff. And nutrition is not a set and forget. It's something that you'll always
No.
need to work on. So the next phase for you, and in my mind, is increasing your muscle mass and keeping that body fat coming down, or at least maintaining itself. And if we can get some more visceral fat off, I think that's going to have huge advantages for you long term, which is really exciting, Tony. So it was a really good shift and really good change. So maybe after your discussion with your doctor next week, we can talk in our alumni power hour about what your next challenge is.
Right. So I think we're getting ready to take our month-long break, and then after that, we'll have to probably set a new target or set a new challenge or something. My goal is to drop some more body fat and hopefully hit the gym and build some more muscle mass. So,
yeah, I think that's a great next step. So for you, as you were going through, like you joined this program thinking, I don't even know if
that
this
it's
chick
not going to work.
Yeah, I don't even know if this chick knows what she's talking about or if she can help me. Like, was
Right.
there any aha moments or surprises that you were like, oh shit, she actually can help me and this is working? Like, is there anything that you learned that shifted your perspective?
We did do a podcast around the beginning of the year, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what number it was, but one of the things that I said in that one was that the one thing I thought I had nailed was my recovery nutrition, and that was the very first thing that we covered, and I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yep.
I was like, wait a minute, that's the only thing I know I have dialed in, and it's not right. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't to the level that it has become since I've joined the program. So yeah, the very first week, the light bulb went off. It's like, okay, I still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I don't know as much as I thought I did. But yeah, and from there, it's really has grown. Obviously 25 years as a diabetic. I've learned quite a bit, and I've learned a lot more since just joining the program.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Thank you. I'm glad that I came through for you. How also then, like you haven't done a lot of racing over this period of time because you've been injured and nursing some war wounds, but your race day fueling is, I guess, completely different to what you did before, having 60 grams of carbs for an entire 70.3. What has
Right.
changed in that space since coming through the TNA program?
I did do right after I think it was right after phase two, I had Clash Daytona, um, and this would have been 23, December of 23, and I successfully took 60 carbs per hour, and I did that as a swim bike, so there was no run, but I did 60 carbs an hour on the bike. And then since then, I've been training at between 90 and 100 when I do longer rides of 2 hours or more. And on my run, I think I'm probably somewhere around between 60 and 75. Just depends on what carb I take with me when I go, what gels and chews I take. But
That's a
I
huge
don't
shift.
right, I don't take I don't have like a set number. It's like, whatever I have left over from my last buy or whatever. It's like, okay, I can take this and I can take this and that'll work, and I like mixing it up because I know I predominantly train with Morton and precision fuel and hydration stuff, mostly because some of it's on the race course and some of it just works really well for me. But I also take others, like I'm trying Scratch right now and I'm really liking it. So I also have an allergy to stevia. So I try to stay away from anything that's got stevia, which is a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But I do try to take more so that if something isn't available that I would normally take, I'm probably going to be safe to take it during a race if I absolutely had to.
Yeah. Wow. That is a huge shift, Tony, to go from 60 grams of carbohydrate for an entire 70.3 to doing it sort of per hour. Have you had to get over some mental hurdles and blocks to do that with diabetes, or have you been okay?
I do wear a CGM, and so that helps a little bit, and I can kind of see my numbers as they go up and down, so it's not as scary. And I think, well, when I did my last race where I did 60 carbs for the whole race, I didn't have a CGM, so I have no idea what my blood sugar was at any point during that day.
Yep.
So it's not as scary with the CGM, obviously, and
Yep.
being able to continue going and going hard is mind-boggling, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, okay, normally I would be wiped out,
Mm.
like barely turn the pedals, and here I am charging away like there's no tomorrow. Yeah, it's been a big shift. Scary, no, but I could see if I didn't have a CGM, it would be really, really scary, I think.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
would have been, but
And so, do you have any advice for triathletes with diabetes then, based on what you've been through? Like for anybody that might be struggling with their nutrition or not really sure where to start?
yeah, so it's there's not a lot of information out there. I am in the process of starting a support group through TriDot for diabetics, where we can meet and talk about some of this stuff. For the most part, you can probably take more carbs than you think you can.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I mean, a lot of people are wearing CGMs and they're saying the same thing. It's like, well, I tried to take a little bit of carbs and my numbers went up. It's like, well, that's what's supposed to happen when
Mm.
you're working out because your body's elevating your glucose levels, your blood sugar levels, so that it will give you the energy you need. It's not a bad thing to go a little high while you're racing or while you're putting out an effort. It's bad while you're not doing it.
Mm.
And it's always bad if you go low, which I did have an episode where I had a race that I had to abandon because my blood sugar just couldn't go up. And I'm not sure, I still haven't figured out why I crashed so much, but I
Mm.
crashed 20 minutes into my run and I made it 20 miles on the bike and I was out of nutrition and my blood pressure or my blood
Yeah.
sugar was still going down. So
Yeah. Abort
um,
mission. Good plan.
yeah,
Abort
so
mission.
I made it to the one aid station, and I said, okay, I've got about a 25, 30-minute ride back. There's cops at every intersection on the way back. So as long as I can see the next intersection and I'm not crashing, I'm good. So I decided and I took a couple of gels, which I had never used before, and I didn't even know what was in them. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take them because I'm out of nutrition. I have nothing. So if I crash, I'm going to take it, and whatever happens, happens. As long as I can see the next cop, they're going to see if I fall off my bike. So, and I pedaled easy all the way back. I wasn't even in aero. I set up on my bars and just pedaled back easy, made it back, and got off the bike and was like just wiped out.
Yeah.
No idea what happened, but that was a one-off, and it was my last race that I did. But I also raced hard the day before, so I have no idea, because it was Clash Daytona again, and I did the sprint on one day, and I was going to do the middle distance on the next, and I raced the sprint really hard and crashed on
do you know what you did? You didn't top up your glycogen stores enough in between. And did you have a beer?
No, I did not.
Did you have another alcoholic beverage?
No, not until after the crash on Sunday.
Okay.
But I know I carb loaded well for the Saturday race. I'm not sure I carb loaded well for Sunday's race because of what happened on Saturday. I was probably a little undercarbed going in, and I just couldn't catch up.
Well, then not a fun lesson to learn the hard way.
Right. Well, and that was really my second attempt at carb loading. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I hadn't had anything that was tested and true that I knew would work. Yeah. So I was kind of playing with fire, I guess, but I was really doing the race for fun. It wasn't like I was trying to set a PR or anything like that. It literally was an end of the season, let's party. Just getting through the season.
Okay. Well, at least you know what not to do next time.
So, right.
So if you could go back then and give Tony advice, like pre-TNA Tony, what would you say to him?
You got to eat carbs. If I would have known in the early 2010s about how many carbs that I really needed to fuel to get through the training and through the racing, I would have been a heck of a lot better athlete.
Yeah. That's okay. There's still time. Are you going to do Ironman when you're 80? What's the plan for you event-wise in the next 20-year block?
Hopefully November, I arrive to the start line in Ironman, Florida, healthy and ready to go. That'll be my first attempt at Ironman.
Yeah.
And I'll be 58. This is something that I'm going to do until I can't get on a bike anymore, or I can't jump in the water, or I can't run.
Yep.
And if I can swim and I can bike, I'll just have to do it fast enough so that I can walk the marathon. So, or do the Ironman shuffle or whatever. But I was never a one and done kind of person. It was like, okay, I know when I get into the sport, I'm going to stay in the sport, and because I'm ultra competitive. I get that.
Yes. And stubborn.
I will race you in mowing the lawn if that's what it takes. I mean, I'm that competitive.
Yeah,
and I get it. And so I'm going to do it until I can't anymore.
So are we racing at Sunny Coast in the swim then? Is it on like Donkey Kong?
Oh, no. I have my limits. There's no way I'm going to be... I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to gain about 20 minutes of speed to compete with you. But you're not in my age group either. So there's that. But
well, I'm not in Kelly's age group or Steve's or anyone, but they still want to race me. They still want to race the Australian that can swim.
Yeah, I'm still recovering from my separated bicep.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Backpedal. So for somebody that's
eventually maybe not this year, maybe next year.
Okay, cool. So for somebody that is not a part of our amazing TNA community, like I love the camaraderie we have. Like, what are some insights or even some words that help to describe it for somebody that's not a part of it? Because it's really, for you, it's really helped you stay accountable and motivated through the challenge that I set you.
Right. So everybody knows that the sport of triathlon is accepting of everybody, right? We take everybody, and the TNA group just takes that to another whole new level. It's like I've got friends that I haven't met, but yet if they called me up and said, "Hey, I need your help," I'm going to help them. Some of them I have met. I've been lucky to meet a good handful of them. I don't think I've met any. Well, I've met one person from my cohort at swim school, no less. So I was coaching on deck, and they were a swimmer and not in my lane. And I've met others at races and camps, and can't wait to get to Australia to meet the ones that I haven't met yet. So
yeah, it's going to be one big fun party week, and then with a triathlon thrown in.
Well, and the day after I get there is my birthday. So
yeah, exactly.
Everybody's going to have to celebrate my birthday when I'm in Australia. So
we can do that. I'm sure we could do that.
Probably not the way I would do it, but yeah.
Well, when you've got a 70.3 to do in a few short days, maybe you need to save the party for after the race.
It'll still be there. Yeah. It'll be there.
Oh, thank you so much, Tony, for joining me on the podcast and sharing your story. I know that there is a lot of diabetics out there that do triathlon that are the same, like just fumbling around, trying to figure it out for themselves. And like you said, there isn't really any information out there, which is a good thing in a way, because then you get blindly led astray by generic advice on the internet that may not be right for you.
Yeah, but it's also bad in the fact that there's nothing to go off of except for what everybody else does. All your doctors and, medical care teams and all that are telling you, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't have carbs, you can't have carbs. And everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm doing 120 carbs, and you're just like, yeah. So, I mean, it's a mess. I wish there was more information out there, but it has to be the right information. And obviously everybody's, N equals 1. And with diabetics, it's definitely N equals 1. So it is difficult.
I think you just need to get the right people in your team, right? Get a GP or a doctor or a sports physician in your corner so that you can have those conversations around, this is the sport that I'm doing and that's not going to change. Help me get everything else right. And the same goes.
Yeah, my doctor's finally accepted the fact that I'm going to be doing these long course events, and he's an athlete anyway. So he's like, okay, that's what I want you to do. He's like, he says, when you came in here and told me you're a diabetic, my very first meeting with him, and you do all these triathlons, I'm like, there's no way this guy knows what he's talking about. He's way off base. This is what my doctor thought of me. And then, 3 or 4 years later, he's like, oh my gosh, this dude is doing all this stuff. It's like, I've got to help him. So, and he has, but he hasn't. But yeah. So our next meeting will be an interesting one. Because
thank you so much.
The medicine.
Well, thank you so much, Tony. It's been great to share your story, and I'm very excited to meet you in the flesh at Sunny Coast 70.3 later in the year.
Can't wait.
Thank you. Bye.
Can't wait. Bye.